Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Books of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Pringle, and I am absolutely elated, as always, to have another phenomenal and extremely talented author with us today on our show. And it is the Dr. Naranda Safaya. He is the author of The Beauty of Being Human. And this particular book is kind of like the book of Psalms. It's a book of poems, actually, and they're very inspiring and something that I'm sure will be a blessing to whomever would read it. Welcome, Doctor. How are you today?
Thank you, Dr. Pringle. I am privileged to be here with you. Very happy to be with you, talking about my book, recently published by Ex Libris, under the title "The Beauty of Being."
The beauty of being human. And listen, you have some good stuff in there, man. I must tell you that you have some really good work in there, and I congratulate you on that before we even get started with the interview. But I want you to tell me a little bit about who is Dr. Naranda Safaya before we start talking about the book. Introduce yourself to our viewing audience.
I am here in the United States for the last 45 years, and 45 years back, I received an invitation to teach here at a university. I was a young man teaching in India. I was hardly 25, 26 years old when I came. And now I have spent time both in North Dakota and in Texas. I was the administrator for the environment and energy development in North Dakota. But before that, I was teaching physiology at the university. So I'm a physiologist turned into a environmentalist, turned into a little kind of a philosopher of some kind after my retirement. Yes.
Well,
So
you
I was interested in literature, philosophy, and comparative religions right from early times. But my focus of studies was science. So after I retired, suddenly I thought that I had been talking too much about hard facts and from my head. And now I wanted to say something from my heart. And therefore, suddenly, by God's grace, I suddenly started writing poems. And eventually, I used to read them to my friends and my relatives, especially my older brother. And one day he said, "This is something very interesting." He said, "Get your books published, these poems published." I said, "I'm just writing them for my own sake." And no, he said, "You are robbing me of the privilege to brag about them." I said, "You got a point." So I got my first book published in 2016, and the title of that was Reflections on Being Human. Maybe I was only reflecting that time. Then, after 2 or 3 years, and after a very sad experience, my dear beloved wife passed away in March, and out of sudden discovery of pancreatic cancer, and I was very depressed. I said, I got to write down on the book. So I had a lot of publishers behind, after me, and I did write that, and it took me out from inactivity and depression to just getting back into the life's mainstream.
so would,
So
would you say would you say this was your inspiration for writing the book?
it was an inspiration because I've dedicated this book to my wife of many years who passed away, unfortunately, in March of this year. And I did that. And as I said, that I wanted to say something from my heart. And I had one more reason for doing this thing that as a kid, I was very much interested in literature, philosophy, comparative religions, and all that. And I wanted to, I had seen all along a very big gap between scientific ideology and spiritual ideology passed to us through religions, various religions. And I thought that the twain shall never meet. Let me at least try to narrow the gap between the two by some telling them, hey, our both of these domains, the religion and the science, has the basic need to discover truth. And we're both involved in this process in our own ways. So why not we see each other's face a little bit more clearly? So from my scientific background to my interest in literature and other things, the product was Reflections on Being Human in 2016 and The Beauty of Being Human in 2020.
Awesome. Well, again, I congratulate you on such a phenomenal work. You've done a great job with the formation of the poems. Would you have any poems that you will consider as your favorites?
I do have quite some favorite poems, but I wanted to let you know, just think before I get into that, what was the very great motivating factor also was that I realized that of all the, you know, things what you call, uh, uh, one second, what you call as being the traits of human beings.
Okay.
We are all diverse. Quite a lot of
Okay.
diversity occurs in the human species.
Hmm.
And among many other traits that we have, which are specific to human beings, irrespective of superficial differences of form and other things, uh, we are distinguished by a sense of self awareness.
Right.
And the self awareness is perhaps the most distinguishing trait of the Homo sapiens compared to the rest of the life forms.
Mhm.
And although all life forms are, this is a scientist speaking in me, are biomolecular machines,
Correct.
the awareness of self in humans is the only distinguishing factor.
Mhm.
But it's also explained differently by the religions and differently by science. So recently there has been tremendous amount of research and interest in, for example, consciousness.
Right.
So and those were motivating factors. And but we have to understand one thing about this awareness, that awareness of our being and of our surroundings changes as we grow from childhood to old age. We spend our childhood in learning of all kind of things, getting in touch with every little object. A child even puts a shoe in the mouth to see what is it,
Correct.
right? And then we become young adults. At that time, learning keeps on going, formal type of education. And then also there's a great need for seeking love, affection
Mhm.
of a worldly kind. And then when we grow a little bit older, we look for gold and garter, and we like prosperity. We like some kind of permanence in our life and livelihood. And when
Mhm.
we get old, we long for spiritual fulfillment. Now, I had in mind to go through these stages and talk about them and what are the beautiful things that occur and what are not so beautiful things, what are discomforting features of this whole process. Uh, we going through each of these phases, we find some success, And sometimes we find defeat, we find joy, and we find sorrow. And we want a way out of these difficulties. So all these themes I wanted to weave in a book, and I chose poetry for its precision, like science has. I chose poetry also for the feelings it can engender, as religion does. Therefore, I thought that let's take a journey through the process of life, talking about what pleases and what discomforts us the most in our lives. So, my book is about the journey of our life, and it is set into three parts. Part one is about life in general, part two, and the challenges thereof. Part two is about love and passion, and part three is light and consciousness. So I have made this journey with about 70 poems in the first section, about 68 poems in the second section, and about 62 poems in the last section. Right. I start my book with a prayer, and I end the book with a prayer, because though I'm a scientist, I am not so skeptical about our spirituality.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
In my home, there is 4 Bibles, and there are 5 Gitas, and there are 2 Qurans, and 2, because unless and until we begin to think about our humanity, all of these great religions are talking about the same thing. But because of our personal identification with these roots of ours, both religious and cultural, we get sometimes confused, and we think that we're talking in different tongues, so to say. The fact is that we're not talking in different tongues. We're talking about the same thing.
We only have a couple of minutes left, and you've given a whole lot of information, man. Really good stuff, really good stuff. And I'm sure our viewing audience appreciates all of the information. We're going to be smarter tomorrow because of you when it comes to just being human. But right quick before we come to an end of this interview, where can our viewers go to find your book?
This book can be found at Ex Libris. We can find this book at Barnes and Nobles, and we can find it at Amazon at this time.
Well, it is a great investment for whomever wishes to invest in it, and a lot of information. And I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but it's like the Book of Psalms to me, because it has poems and prayers. And so you're like a modern day David, a modern day Solomon. Doctor, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And as I stated, you're like a modern day David. And so keep doing the good work that you're doing. Keep inspiring people with your poems. And to all of our viewers out there, I'm sure you've enjoyed yourselves immensely listening to our featured guest. And so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for our next guest on this episode of Books of the Month. Thank you, Dr. Narendra. You have a wonderful day, okay?
You too, Dr. Pringle. It was a pleasure to talk with you about my book.
Bye-bye.
America has always been the land of opportunity, but not all opportunities turn out the way you hoped. Maybe, like a lot of people, you've been hit by credit card bills, a divorce, or you lost your job. Now the feeling of debt is overwhelming. But this is a country where everyone deserves a second chance. We're the providers of Care One Debt Relief Services, created by Bernie Dansell on this very idea of second chances. Over 20 years ago, he had his own battle with debt, which motivated him to start Care One, the nation's largest brand of debt relief services. He wanted to help good people move forward in their lives with dignity and respect. Call our certified credit counselors for your free personalized plan. We help you consolidate your unsecured debt into one affordable monthly payment. It's not a loan, it's not bankruptcy, it's a fresh start. Yours. Call us today or visit careonetoday.com. Care One, we're in the business of second chances.
All right, and welcome back. Thank you for hanging right in there with us. We have another phenomenal author, Dr. Florence Juma. And listen, this book is going to be a blessing to so many people. This interview is going to be a blessing to so many people. This is a phenomenal woman of God who has written an absolutely anointed book. It is entitled Death Did Us Part. You already know where we're going with this. Death Did Us Part. Deconstructing the mystery behind the death of a marriage. So listen, get your relatives around. You want to hear about this, okay? Welcome, Dr. Juma. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me in your show.
It is an honor to have you. I absolutely love your accent. I know you're located in Canada, but where are you originally from?
Great question. I'm originally from Kenya, and that's in East Africa.
East Africa. Listen, it's my goal one day to go to Kenya. I want to go to Sierra Leone, which is on West Africa, and I would love to visit Egypt one day. I'm told Africa is absolutely beautiful. You'll
definitely love the continent. Whatever part of it you happen to land in, you'll just love it.
I believe that. I believe that. Well, tell our viewing audience a little bit about you before we begin talking about your book.
So my name, as you saw, is Florence Juma. I was born, grew up in Kenya, and my parents, my dad especially, was very committed in the church. He was a deacon, he was a leader, then he was a Sunday school teacher and a choir director. And therefore, Sunday school lessons and choir was always from church to home, to church to home. It was like it never stopped. I loved that influence he had in my life. And early in life, I chose the path of Christianity. I accepted the faith. I parted ways a little bit with my father, who at the time was serving in the Anglican tradition, and I ended up in a Pentecostal tradition, but we made peace, he accepted. So early in life, I joined the full-time ministry. I served in the church. We moved to South Africa with my husband and children for 3 years. He was completing a doctoral degree, and I too enrolled in that. And somehow we had a detour and ended up in Canada. We've been in Canada for now 20 years. The children have grown. We have grandchildren. We are aging.
Well, listen, you are aging beautifully, beautifully. You don't look like you have 3 grown children, I can tell you that much. But God has definitely been good to you. And this book, so you are married, you're not divorced. So give me the inspiration behind this book.
The inspiration behind the book predominantly has to do with the work I do, which is family therapy. Okay. I trained in the field of pastoral care and counseling, and most recently, it is spiritual care and psychotherapy. I'm a registered psychotherapist. And it is a bit of life experience, a bit of what I work with. And therefore, I made the book fiction, but it's based on real life experience. Right. Mm-hmm. Where situations, and especially situations from individuals from the background similar to mine, individuals who have a strong, vibrant faith, and individuals who are encountering challenges in their relationship and somehow unable to name them or to find ways because it's associated, there is stigma around seeking help or counseling or therapy. Eventually, the relationship dies. And in the wedding ceremony vows, traditional vows says, till death do us part, assuming it's the death of one of the couples in the relationship. But what happens when marriage itself dies before any of the couple dies? So that was the inspiration behind the book.
So basically, it's not just a physical death, but an emotional death.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I personally believe that there are different types of deaths, if I may say, that could take place in a marriage, economic, emotional, spiritual, and the list goes on, which will ultimately and inevitably affect the marriage. Now, I am not the psychotherapist you are, And so am I right or am I wrong on that?
You're very right. In the book, I address all those. There is the physical challenges to the marriage. I use the terminology of healthcare system. So there is the physical ailments, but there is also the psychological, emotional, financial, all these ailments that compound eventually, and the relationship succumbs to death. So the case study that I'm looking at, the marriage is not dead yet, but it's on life support. And there is a danger that it might succumb. And the hope is that it doesn't succumb.
Wow. That's some good stuff there. It's not dead, but it's on life support. So in reality, it's surviving off of the support of another source other than what it should be surviving off of. And that is love, peace, happiness, and understanding and trust and all of those things. So it's not surviving off of that. It's surviving off something else. And so that's some really good stuff. Listen, have you been able to take this information, your book, and use it in your church where you attend?
I have done that. I have done that to a limited degree. The book came out and shortly after the pandemic, kind of. Okay. And so there has been minimal, but my hope is at some point I was to travel to Kenya last year, as I normally do. My dad is still here. My mom passed away 3 years ago. And my colleagues, the people we grew up as youth together in the church, were looking forward to come and bring some copies and share with them. So yes, there is hope to use it more, but so far it's been at a limited capacity.
Well, I'm sure when the pandemic is under control and everything gets back to normal, you're going to soar with this book. This is some good stuff, Dr. Juma. This is, what type of, have you been able to get any reviews from anywhere?
I received a review. One review was from my colleague. We teach together, a registered couple and marriage therapist. And he mentioned specifically the uniqueness that it has, addressing a specific, for instance, humanity, we experience love, life really the same. We may have different colors on the top of our skin, but deep underneath the skin, we have same needs. We have potential for goodness. We have potential for evil. We are human race, although we are different. But yes, there are specific things that are unique to individual groups of people. So the first review mentioned that it was really relevant and helpful for understanding within the Western context, therapy is so influenced from a perspective that's slightly different. And so people who are still finding their way to understand that, and they're newer immigrants, there is a way to which the book speaks to them in a way that it's unique to their own shared history and contexts. So that was one of the reviews.
Beautiful. Well, that's a good review. That is a good review. And so what are your future plans with your book? Are you possibly going to do some speaking in different venues, conference? What do you think is going to, I see a conference coming behind this. So I don't know. Oh, maybe that's prophetic. I don't know. But what are some of your plans?
If the doors open, one of the places that I've shared it, one of the few places was a conference for spiritual care, Canadian Association for Spiritual Care within our province region. So I was a keynote speaker and I shared a bit about the book. If the doors open, I hope I can share it, be it in conferences, marriage and family conferences, or just women's groups and conferences, just different ways of, one of the few people that have given feedback have said, you have just narrated my story. It's a story I can't come out and talk about because of the guilt and the stigma and the shame. But when I read your book, I'm comforted that this is not just me. This is a story that can be shared or can be experienced elsewhere. So I'm hoping that it may help people to feel comfortable to share and not feel guilty, because in marriage, we are all learners and it's a lifelong school.
And so this book is to help save marriages, not to give individuals an excuse to get a divorce, but to save marriages. Am I correct?
It is. And I dedicated it to my mother, saying she embodied the value of keeping the vows till death. It is the aim and the purpose is to recognize the importance of marriage and to allow people to understand that it's not perfect. You don't walk in it and you have a perfect relationship. And the first instance of imperfection, you either think it's failure or look for a way out. No, the first instance of imperfection is a challenge to actually work on it and grow.
Well, this is a blessing to the body of Christ, and not only to the body of Christ, to whomever reads it. I'm sure. Exactly where can our viewing audience go to purchase your book?
So Word Alive Press is the publisher, and I believe I will just read from my media press. They have indicated where the book can be found.
Okay.
Amazon online, there is also a soft copy. So I'll get to that page. Pardon me.
What about a website?
Word Alive Press in their website. It's definitely available there. It's also available at Amazon's Kindle Store, Apple iBooks, Kobo, Google Play, and in Adobe PDF format for additional vendors.
Awesome.
And wherever they say, Word Alive on their website, they say, wherever fine Christian books are sold.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, of course, the book, you are a Christian. If I'm not mistaken, you are a part of the Assemblies of God of Canada. Yes. And you're Pentecostalist. And so am I. I'm not Assemblies of God, but I've been Pentecostal my entire life. And but I'm sure your book is for more than just Pentecostals, more than just Christians. Your book is for the world, because we're wanting to save marriages and save families. Well, this is really, really, really some good stuff, and I congratulate you. Do you have any future plans of writing another one to follow this?
I'd like to. I'm not trained journalist or author. I'm not trained, skilled in that art. I just love journaling and sharing my story. So I have some memos. I look forward to when I retire and have time to, pen one or two, but not quality journalistic, special, high quality material. Just sharing of my story.
Well, this is some good. Listen, you never know. You never know. You just stated that you're not an author, but listen, you are an author. You are a phenomenal author, and I think you've done quite well with this presentation. And again, so I congratulate you. A lot of times, you know, we are good in areas where we don't have to study. We don't have to study to become good. We're just good. It comes to us naturally. We were born with it. And so your presentation is an outstanding work, and I'm sure you're proud of it, your husband, your family, and continue doing what you have been doing. Tune in next week, same time, same place. God bless you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.